Hello and welcome to WION Broadcasting live from London. I'm Katie Pilbeam and these are the headlines. Nothing is off the table, says Britain's Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, as Zelensky pushes for jets from the West. Zelensky now heads to Brussels, where he will lobby EU allies for modern weapons and fighter jets. Russia calls for an international probe into Nord Stream blasts after a blog by a US investigative journalist alleges that the United States was behind the explosions that ruptured the Nord Stream gas pipelines. The first Australian coal shipment to China is over 2 years, nears delivery now, according to shipping data and media reports, as tensions between the two Pacific powers show signs of easing. India's Adani firm stocks fall, ending a 2-day reprieve after global index provider MSCI says it is reviewing the eligibility of the group's shares in its market indices. Nuclear-armed North Korea showcases its missile production muscle during a nighttime parade, displaying more intercontinental ballistic missiles than ever before and hits at a new solid fuel weapon. To our top story now, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is lobbying for jets after a surprise visit to the UK and France. The Ukrainian leader is eyeing a visit to Brussels. French President Emmanuel Macron and Zelensky are set to visit the summit of EU heads of state and government together. Zelensky, who was in the UK for the first time since Russia's invasion began, expressed gratitude for the equipment received so far, but warned that the supplies were running out. UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has said nothing is off the table when it comes to helping Ukraine in its fight with Russia.
When it comes to fighter combat aircraft, of course, they are part of the conversation. Indeed, we've been discussing that today and have been previously, and that's why we've announced today that we will be training Ukrainian Air Force on NATO standard platforms, because the first step in being able to provide advanced aircraft is to have soldiers or aviators that are capable of using them. That is a process that takes some time. We've started that process today. That's because we're keen to support the President and his country in delivering a victory, and nothing is off the table, and our leadership on this issue is something that we all collectively should be very proud of, and I know that the President is grateful for.
After visiting London, Zelensky flew to Paris and met with the French President Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz. He said Germany and France have the opportunity to be game changers by supplying heavy weapons and fighter jets to Ukraine. Scholz said that Germany stands firmly by Ukraine in its efforts to advance the defence of its own country. While in Paris, Macron presented Zelensky with the Grand Cross of the Legion of Honour, the highest honour a French president can bestow on another head of state. The death toll in the devastating earthquake in Turkey and Syria has crossed 16,000. The Turkish President Erdogan, who visited one of the cities hit by the quake and admitted faults with his government's initial response. Well, this after anger mounted from those left destitute over the slow arrival of rescue teams. Meanwhile, satellite images of the devastation have emerged. These are on your screen right now. You can see the images of cities before and after the earthquake. Notice a stadium which is filled with relief tents erected after the quake hit.
A moment of joy. Rescuers pull a whole family from the rubble in northern Syria. More often, bodies are removed. Thousands more people mourn or wait for news. Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan visited Kahramanmaraş in southern Turkey to see the devastation firsthand, 2 days after disaster struck. Anger is growing over what local people say has been a slow government response. Erdogan has declared a state of emergency in 10 provinces and sent in troops to help.
All state institutions are working on this at the moment. On the first day we experienced some issues, but then on the second day and today, the situation has been taken under control.
A traumatic search at this nearby sports hall, as survivors step among rows of bodies, examining them one by one. Other makeshift morgues are in stadiums and parking lots. The tremor struck in the dead of night when people were sleeping. Hundreds of collapsed buildings have become tombs, and the toll is expected to rise. In the quake zone, survivors slept in their cars overnight in the freezing cold, or in the streets under blankets. Fearful of going back into buildings shaken by the 7.8 magnitude tremor that hit in the early hours of Monday. Families destroyed or torn apart. In an Aleppo hospital, Bakir says he lost 13 members of his family of 16 when their building collapsed. Only my brother, my 1.5-year-old niece and I got out, he says. Yusuf has waited 2 days for someone to rescue his relatives. His father, mother, sister and her son are under this rubble on an Aleppo street.
I talked to them and heard their voice, but unfortunately, as you can see here, they're very slow at work and they don't have enough equipment.
Aid officials voice particular concern about the situation in Syria. Humanitarian needs are now greater than at any point since a war broke out that has partitioned the nation and is complicating relief efforts. Residents in Syrian government-held territory contacted by phone have described the authorities' response as slow, with some areas receiving more help than others.
More in our next report now here on WION. The US, UK and Australia are carrying out China-focused joint military drills over the Nevada desert in the western United States. The drills are part of an effort to simulate high-end combat operations against Chinese fighter aircraft and air defenses. The US is hosting the 3-week-long Red Flag exercises. US Air Force Colonel Jared J. Hutchinson said the annual drills were not tied to any recent events. The drills have come on the backdrop of rising US-China tensions. The most recent flashpoint has been the alleged Chinese spy balloon that was shot down over the Atlantic.
We're not necessarily reacting to any recent political events. It's just the pacing challenge that we train to so that we're ready for whether it be an Indo-PACOM threat or a EUCOM threat or a CENTCOM threat. We think that if we're ready for China, we're ready for anybody.
The drills were aimed at addressing the vast distances that the AUKUS countries would negotiate while operating across the Pacific. Improving their interoperability of the 3 air forces is also a big focus area. Beyond a tanker aircraft, Britain also flew Typhoon fighter jets in the exercises. Australia's EA-18G Growler, it took part as well.
So this mission is to simulate a need to undertake activity into an area where there has been an invasion by a hostile country. So our role will be to support the force to effectively proceed into the area that's been occupied and to undertake targeting of key assets to allow us to degrade the enemy's capabilities.
The Royal Air Force commander did not mention China by name. He also did not identify what simulated area had been invaded. Well, the Pentagon has voiced growing concern in recent years about pressure by Beijing on self-ruled Taiwan. The US government has identified China as the US military's top strategic priority. Former US Prime Minister Boris Johnson is again under the radar. This time it's about the total earnings the former PM has received since leaving office. According to reports, Johnson has received £2.5 million for speeches. Well, this means he has received earnings, hospitality and donations of more than £5 million over the last 6 months. Johnson, since his exit from Number 10, has undertaken a spat of global speaking summits. He addressed investigators in the technology behind cryptocurrency, insurers and investment bankers, for which he takes £500,000 as an advance. Well, according to the latest disclosure showing Johnson accepted a donation of more than £1 million from an investor in crypto and aviation fuel. This was based in Thailand. Reports suggest the donation from his investor was for the running of Johnson's office. Now, this fans speculation that Johnson could be preparing to attempt a comeback as Prime Minister. However, Johnson's allies have strongly denied such speculation. Johnson also declared the free use of the VIP suite at Heathrow and Gatwick airports several times since August. Johnson's latest declarations show how the former leaders can earn millions just shortly after leaving office.
Mr. Speaker, I've spoken to the chair of the National Fire Council last night and this morning about the heroic work of firefighters in recent days. I know the whole House...
Another entrant into the AI chatbot race. Chinese e-commerce giant Alibaba is now working on a chat GPT-style conversation bot of its own. Or Alibaba, it joins a flurry of global tech firms doing this, rushing to match the popular AI-powered chatbot. Now, it's not clear when Alibaba will launch its AI-powered chatbot service. There is speculation on whether it would be a part of Chinese biggest online shopping platform, Taobao. Now, Alibaba's US-listed shares rose 3.2% in pre-market after this news. Shares of several other Chinese AI technology companies have soared in the past few days due to investor excitement over AI. All shares of Baidu jumped 15% on Tuesday. This after the Chinese search giant said it planned to complete testing of its AI-based chatbot, Ernie, in March. Earlier, Microsoft announced a multi-billion-dollar partnership with ChatGPT's maker, OpenAI. Well, it has also announced plans to integrate the capabilities of language-based artificial intelligence with its Bing search engine. Google also announced a slew of AI-powered features on Wednesday. ChatGPT has sparked a gold rush in artificial intelligence technology. The service, created by San Francisco company OpenAI, has caused a sensation for its multifaceted capabilities. Well, this includes writing essays, poems, and programming on demand, all within seconds. Well, this has sparked widespread fears of cheating or professions becoming obsolete. Adani firm stocks, well, they fell on Thursday, ending a 2-day reprieve after global index provider said it was receiving the eligibility of the group's shares in its markets indices. Or MSCI said it has determined that some of Adani's securities can no longer be designated, as free float, a technical requirement that it needs. Now, MSCI defines free float as the number of shares linked to the group that are freely available in public equity markets for global investors. Now, markets await MSCI's regular review report later on Thursday on Adani Securities' eligibility in the MSCI's global indices. Well, in response to the MSCI statement, Hindenburg founder Nathan Anderson tweeted, "We view this as validation of our findings." Well, Gautam Adani-led group is caught up in a crisis since US research firm Hindenburg published a scathing report on January the 24th, accusing the business empire of improper use of offshore tax havens and stock manipulation. The Adani Group has denied those allegations as baseless. But the report and its aftermath, well, they wiped out $110 billion off Adani's 7 main listed stocks. The group's flagship Adani Enterprises was forced to abandon a $2.5 billion share sale offering. To regain investor confidence, the group, it prepaid over $1.1 billion in loans against pledged shares, and it plans to prepay another $500 million. But media reports show banks had a balked at refinancing those loans and called on the group to cover for those losses in market value of those pledged shares. Well, in addition to scrutiny after the recent stocks rout, a sustainability ratings company has downgraded 3 Adani firms on ethics concerns after the Hindenburg report. The ratings company said the increasing financial and reputational risks stemming from the report by Hindenburg Research, as well as previous investigations and inquiries into the company's activities contributing to the negative outlook. Well, that downgrade is tied to environmental, social and governance. It's called ESG matters, which can influence whether fund managers focused on green investment buy or hold the securities. Mass layoffs at big firms continue. Entertainment giant Disney has now announced that it will lay off 7,000 employees, which is estimated to be around 3.6% of Disney's global workforce. Well, this move is part of an effort to save $5.5 billion in costs. Well, the Disney CEO, Bob Iger, has announced a major revamp under which the company will be reorganizing into 3 segments: an entertainment unit that encompasses film, television, and streaming, a sports-focused ESPN unit, and Disney Parks experiences and products as well. So the restructuring is expected to streamline operations, making its business more efficient and reducing costs. The company said its streaming service witnessed first ever fall in subscribers last quarter. Subscribers of Disney Plus, which is the streaming arch rival of Netflix, fell 1% to 161.8 million customers on December the 31st, compared to 3 months earlier. And Iger was noted as saying that streaming remained Disney's top priority. Well, this is Disney's 3rd restructuring attempt in 5 years now. The last time Disney made cuts was during the height of the pandemic, when it announced in November 2020 that it would lay off 32,000 workers, primarily at its theme parks. Here in London, thank you very much indeed for watching. Stay with WION for more internationally.
Many other